Hey everybody, how are you? Thanks so much for stopping by. It's Audrey. I'm sharing a project today, a layout that I created for ThermWeb, and I'm going to be using some of the new Gina K Designs collection. So here I am showing you some of the products I'm going to use. I have a whole bunch of the foil mates, which you can see off to my left there, a whole bunch of the fancy foils and the ink sets to match, a few of the Gina K die sets, and the premium cardstock. And all of the colors for the inks and the cardstock and the foils all coordinate with each other. And I believe they're actually all called the same color. So for example, the grass green is the same in the ink, in the cardstock, and the foils. So I have pulled out a couple of the different fancy foil sheets. I think I have 6 or 7 sheets here. And I am going to cut them eventually with this die. And so I'm just using the die kind of as a size guide just to cut out a little square of these foil mates for now. So the way these foil mates work is they kind of have a toner on them that is black, and you can choose what color foil you want to put on them. So before I actually foil them, though, I wanted to add a little bit more color. So I am going to go through with these ink pads, these Gina K ink pads, and I'm just using a little sponge, and I'm just kind of going over the edge of each square. And again, these are not cut out exactly to size yet with the die, which I will do in the next step here, but I just wanted to add some color. And I'm not covering the whole thing completely with the color. I'm just kind of actually going darker on the edges and trying to do a little bit of the lighter color in the middle. And anywhere where you see the black right now on any of these patterns, that is the area that will be foiled. So the white part will stay in this case, it will stay colored after I ink it, and then the black part will become foiled with whatever color foil you choose. So I was not sure if I should have inked first and then applied the foil, or added the foil first and then inked. I don't think it really matters, because I think when you do add the foil on, it kind of acts as a resist. However, just to be cautious, I wanted to add my ink first and then the foil on top of that. And this last card here, I decided to kind of do a little bit of a rainbow-ish, because it was going to be my journaling spot. This is actually a tag that's supposed to be used for like a RSVP for a party or an event, and I thought it would be good for using as a journaling spot on a layout, because it has, date, time, place, and yeah, I just thought that would fit in fine. So I have gone through and cut out a whole bunch of squares of the different color foils from the Gina K line here, from the fancy foils, and again, all these foil colors match with like the name of the color of the ink and the name of the color of the cardstock. And I am matching the color of the foil to the color that I inked the square. So here is the orange ink with the orange foil. And the journaling spot, because I used like kind of a rainbow set of inks, I went ahead and used the iridescent deco foil. And the iridescent deco foil has a little bit of a rainbow shine to it. And then again, using the purple foil with the purple colored square, and so on and so forth. So I do this for each one, and just look at how these come out when they come out of the foil. They are just gorgeous, and they cover absolutely perfectly with the foil. And I just love the complete coverage, and I love the colors. I love that all the colors coordinate together, and so that's why I went ahead and did this, but you could obviously very easily mix and match your colors to fit whatever theme you're going to. So having a different color foil or with the different color ink, or you could even leave the background white too if you wanted the white background. But yeah, super fun to use these foil mates. And I think this is my last one here, the purple. And voila, really pretty. The negative of that too, when you pull off the foil, is so awesome as well. Okay, so now I've pulled out the cardstock, and you can see how perfectly the cardstock matches the ink, which matches the foil. So all perfectly coordinated. And I have gone through and just cut out kind of a scrappy square of the cardstock for now. Now here's where I'm using the 2 dies. And one of the dies sets is a single stitch. So there's 2 different die sets, and they're both squares. One is a double stitched line, and the other one is a single stitched line. So I think the large one, I can't remember which one is which here. I think the large one I have is the double stitched die. Yeah, that's the double stitched. You can see the double stitch line there. And then the single one here is the small one is the single stitch line. So I go ahead and go through and do that for all of these squares. And now they all have a nice little kind of I don't want to say embossed, but detail, stitching detail on the edges of the squares. Okay, so I have picked out a piece of paper for my background paper, and I'm using a picture of my son who just lost his first tooth a couple weeks ago, and the funny part was his two grown-up teeth were already grown in, like completely grown in behind his two baby teeth, and his two baby teeth just would not come out. So he actually still has one in right now as I'm recording this. So his grown-up teeth are there, but they're just behind. So we've been calling him Shark lately because he has extra rows of teeth. But anyway, I just kind of arranged my photo with the different color squares there to kind of get their placement. And I wanted to do something a little bit to jazz up the background. And I thought, kind of going with the whole tooth idea, that I would add some white. And I thought adding the white in the background would also make the colored squares stand out a little bit more too. So I'm just using some white gesso there with a little spatula. And this is some ink. I think it's this Dilutions white ink. And that adds some nice splatters on there. So once that dries, I go back on again and kind of add my squares. You'll notice, by the way, under the one that says date, time, and place, that I was able to chop off the RSVP part of that card because it did have an RSVP part, and I didn't want that on the card, but I love the little stars on there, and they were foiled too and are iridescent, but I haven't put a square behind that yet. And I believe I end up using just white cardstock for that square to kind of pick up on the white in my photo. So now comes the embellishing part, and I decided to kind of go along with the color theme again and match embellishments that I found to the color of each square. So I went through a ton of boy collections I have. I have a couple from Coco Vanilla. One is called Made of Awesome and You Rock, and I'm just digging through there and trying to find some phrases and just all kinds of stuff. I have these vellum stars and stickers and cardstock and flair and rubber pieces. And you can see that I am kind of trying to pull out some things that have some star shapes too. So just for a little contrast, I had this black heart that was cut out in there, and I kind of liked that. So I am going to add just a few black pieces on here and kind of create a visual triangle with some black elements, again, just to provide a little bit more contrast. I had put that little rainbow chevron piece on the journaling part because journaling square, because the journaling square was kind of rainbow-ish as well, but I don't end up liking that. I think it draws away too much from the other rainbow pattern, so I end up taking that off and kind of just sticking with the color on color embellishing. I also have here, I pulled out a couple old crepe paper lines. I think this one's Boy's Rule, and the other one was, I don't remember. Anyway, couple, Cool Kid, that's right, Cool Kid and Boy's Rule. The Boy's Rule was the older one. So as I was digging through this, I found this little dinosaur embellishment, and I thought that would kind of be cute. I wish he had big white teeth, because that would kind of just be perfect for my layout about teeth. But that's why I put the dinosaur on here, because I was thinking of big chomping teeth. So he goes on the red square, and that's a good fill for that square, I think. I love this collection. This boy collection is great. It has just some great sayings and phrases, and I love the different kinds of stickers, and just super fun. So to kind of, again, go along with the black visual triangle, I found the little phrase that says, the whole phrase said ready, set, go time, but I just picked go time. I thought that was cute with the arrow. And then I have a piece of flair over there to the left that says boom, and that creates my visual triangle with the black heart. He's not so little anymore, but he's so cute. So I had to put the little U tag on there. And his age, of course, when his first tooth came out, so he's 6. And yeah, so I'm just going to go through, fill those all up. I'm not going to bore you with the rest here, but you get the idea. Okay, so I've added all my embellishments, and then I thought it was kind of plain in the top right corner, and I wanted something to make, to highlight that photo over there. So I went through and I just grabbed another die. This is a close to my heart die, and some white cardstock. And I cut out these stars, and I'm going to layer those. And I don't want to do anything fancy with them because I don't want them to be the highlight of the page, but I do just want to scatter them there and kind of create this flow from the top right down to the left to kind of draw your eye across the page. And I frequently do that on my layouts to kind of create that flow on a diagonal across a page. And I love the way that it helps your eye move around. So now I'm going to go through and start gluing all this down. So my first glue here is the Therm Mixed Media Liquid Adhesive, which I have put into a tiny fine line bottle to give me a really skinny line of adhesive. This is my favorite liquid glue ever. It dries fast, but it doesn't dry so fast that as soon as you put it down, you can't move it. You can move it, but it does dry pretty quickly, so you don't have a lot of time to move a piece around. So that's why I always lay out everything before I glue it down, and I lay it out exactly how I want it and then go through and glue it down. To kind of give these squares a little bit of dimension, I took out a piece of double-sided foam adhesive, which you can do a lot of things with. You can foil it, you can die cut it, you can punch it, but I am just using it just as kind of a layer here to give a little bit of depth and dimension to each of these squares. So I'm going to go ahead and back, I'm going to create each of these little squares first. So I'm going to go ahead and back each of these foil mate squares with a piece of the double-sided foam adhesive, and then layer them on top of the cardstock, and then add my embellishments on. And I decided to do it this way. I just thought it was easiest to, just go through and layer each square at a time. I am also using some of the 3D foam squares for some of the smaller embellishments, and I do think I have some 3D strips in here too that I can't recall if I use the strips for anything, but I think I mostly stick with the double-sided foam adhesive and the 3D foam squares as well. So I'm going to kind of speed this part up here because it really is just me gluing everything. You saw me arrange it all. It's kind of the same process for each square. So I'm going to kind of move this ahead a little bit faster. Okay, so this is going to be super warp speed here. I'm just going to tell you about a couple of the other products I'm using to glue things down. I use these Zots frequently, the singles, either the 3D singles or the medium-sized singles, to glue down things like flare or these rubber charms, because the flare has a smooth metal backing and that doesn't work well, in my opinion, with liquid glue. And the same thing with these rubber charms, which also have a smooth rubber backing. So this little blue banner that says "That's my boy," it's right under my wrist right now. I frequently use a smaller glue dot to adhere those down, or the Zot singles. So the Zots Bling or the singles are good for rubber charms. Anything with a smooth surface does not really stick well with liquid glue, so I tend to use something else. Same thing, this little rad banner piece is also a rubber charm, and that will need a glue dot as well. I just broke up my ruler just slightly. I'm not usually very precise. I like to eyeball things, but just to kind of make sure that my squares were somewhat lined up in the middle there, so that's why I have my ruler out. I've got each of those squares embellished and set together, so I just glued them down each with the liquid adhesive. And now I'm just going to add a little bit more interest to my photo, and I'm taking one of the mixed media sheets, the lightweight sheets. It's my favorite thing to do with these mixed media sheets, is to back a photo with it and kind of put a mat on it. And I always use a tape runner. I always use the permanent tape runner with the mixed media sheets, because again, the liquid glue kind of seeps through that. So this works very well. And then more double-sided adhesive to pop the photo up. And again, the mixed media sheet there just provides a nice soft layer to soften the edges of the photo and make it stand out from the background. I added a little doodled white line around that black heart there. I love how that looks. Going to glue down this rad, and I add a label sticker for the date on the top. And that's about it. One more thing I do not show on here because I didn't videotape it and I added it in afterwards was I took a piece of the double-sided foam adhesive and I added some foil to it and added some more stars to the area where there are white stars. So I added the iridescent foil to some small foam adhesive, which you will see in the finished product there. So yeah, you can see the little tiny stars in the top right and the bottom left over the white stars, and those are double-sided adhesive, foam adhesive with the iridescent foil. So here are some layers. You can it's very hard to photograph foil, so you can definitely see where it shines though. And these are just beautiful, and I love the colors. And this is one of my favorite layouts in a long time. I love all the things in this layout. So thank you so much for stopping by the Thermal Web channel today. I hope you enjoyed and got some inspiration, and we'll see you next time.